All right. So let's start the next session. Welcome you back to the last session of the course. Basically, this course is offered part as a part of the uh, diploma program to understand how we can use or apply development center in an integrated talent management center. Basically, what ISTD teaches and preaches is managing the talent through various means. And what we have covered so far is one more way, dimension of how we actually integrate the talent management into our, uh, training and development initiatives. One thing that we have not discussed so far and which we'll be now addressing is how actually you prepare an individual development plan. So we have seen in the previous two sessions how a DC report is prepared, how the participant is given the feedback, how the report reaches the organization. But what we have not yet completed or what we have not discussed so far is what is the individual development plan, how is it prepared, what goes into it, what is its structure, and how does it actually get it into implementation. So IDP is one of the uh, resultant products of byproducts of development center, and it basically documents the actions that an individual need to take to set his own development agenda with a timeline. Obviously, the organization goes through the development the development center process with the objective of achieving the individual's goals as one part. The other one is meeting the organization goals on the other side. So both have to be met. But the active participant in completing the gaps, or mitigating the gaps in the competencies, actually it should come from the individual concerned, and the organization can only support that initiative, right? So IDP should be created by the participant, not by the assessor or by the organization. Organization definitely has a role to play in the sense that the organization actually uh, you know reviews the development plan that is prepared by the individual, and then they may suggest some changes, some modifications can be there, and where the organization actually gets involved in implementing it, the organization has to support in terms of time, budgets, and all that. And the individual in any case has to get involved irrespective of the role of the organization. Obviously the development process involves some part which will be purely initiative of the individual, and some part where you require some amount of budgetary support, some time, availability from the organization, and sometimes the organization itself sending the individual for some training programs. So it should not be very lengthy document, and it should not not should be too brief. It should not be. It should be just like business document. It should be good enough for the business manager to understand what you intend to do, and it is a good enough record for you to know what agenda you are setting up for your future progress. So IDP must be owned by the participants. Only when I prepare it and then I own it. Naturally, it should not be prepared by somebody else. You should need understand the developmental tasks and activities that can be done and what might be difficult for him to do based on the current role. You know, quite often what I have seen in my organizational practices is people are enthusiastic to write so many things in the document without really assessing the feasibility of completing them. I think it's important while preparing the IDP to have the due diligence and see whether that is what is doable and what is not doable, what will work and what will not work, and what ultimately it is not your enthusiasm or your aspiration. It should also meet the organizational requirements, right? It should, whatever the plan that you're making should be aligned to the departmental requirements, which are automatically leads to the organizational requirements. And the IDP, once prepared, obviously will be a part of the document, will be there with the HR, and they will look at its implementation and the overall compliance and the achievement of whatever the goals that the individual is setting for himself or herself. So, action items that are used in IDP are job assignments, cross functional projects, editing training programs, being coached and mentored. So, obviously, cross functional projects, as the organization has to support the individual. Now, why do you require cross functional projects? Why do you require cross-functional projects? Or what type of aspiration is there when you say that I want to get trained in the cross-functional projects?
Can I answer? Can
Yeah,
I try?
yeah, please, please.
Son, more often than not, when we are talking about people at certain roles, the technical competency requirement decreases, and the ability to see the bigger picture is more important. So when we expose people through cross-functional teams, their own contribution to the rest of the process becomes clearer. While they may be considered for improvements in their own role, their contribution and how their own role affects the rest of the people within that chain, that also becomes important. That is one. Second is, in the terms of growth and expansion, CFTs play an important role when we want to make sure that we are grooming people if we don't have somebody for the next level in a certain other profile. That's, sir, my
Right.
opinion.
Very right. Very right. Very nice. You know, I think the whole uh, concept of work has changed. No, Adam Smith, some 250 plus years ago, when he said division of labor, he spoke of specialization. In 1940s, when Henry Ford spoke about, the assembly line, again he spoke of specialization. That means if you keep on doing the same job repetitively, his assumption was that you will be a master of that particular work and your productivity will be the highest. But fast forward to 2023, 25. Now we are now talking of not having the specialist role. We want agile workforce. I think the whole world is now talking about agility, which means people should, have exposure to multiple roles or multiple competencies in different functions, because one that protects, insulates the individual from losing a job. If you have the cross functional knowledge, you get protected as a person who can be used by the organization in multiple roles, and the organization can also leverage the existing employees for various functions, without getting additional employees or new recruits and then putting them through the training. So the cross functionality has become the order of the day, and the entire agile HRM talks about it, and how do you leverage the existing resources for multiple functions. And this is definitely going to be in the on the agenda of the many of the individual development plans that you are going to create. I think whatever Mr. Leo said is also very valid. So that is the importance of cross functional projects in the organization. Now, attending training programs, we'll come back to that. I think of late, coaching is taking a very center stage in most of the organizations. Mentoring, of course, has been there. Mentoring has not been practiced successfully by many organizations. It has remained as a sort of a buzzword. But now a lot of private coaching is happening, and coaches are gaining traction in the market. That is because the gap of coaching is not filled in the organizations. So coaching may not be it may be a training need for the participant here. It may not necessarily be supported by the organization. It can also be done by the individual concerned. Job assignments, obviously, the departmental head or the functional head has to do it. So all these items, when an IDP is prepared and presented to the line manager, it should be crystal clear to both organization and the individual which is driven, I mean, the whole ownership is with the individual, but which is driven by whom, whether it is individual driven or the organization driven, has to be clearly mentioned and understood, and HR department should also make a note of it. If it is related to training programs, obviously HR department has to detail the person to a particular training or a set of training programs at an appropriate time within the time schedule mentioned in the IDP, so that the goals of the individuals can be met. Now, what are the objectives? Clearly establish the development roadmap of the individual. By that, I also mean to say that the organization is committing, or at least indicating that you have a role ahead of you. We are going to consider you for a certain position in the organization. And if you are able to do one, two, three, four, five competency enhancements, obviously the role is going to belong to you. So that is what the commitment is. Therefore, from both the sides, organization side as well as the individual side, both have to work in tandem to make sure that the goal is met. Now, what are the elements of IDP? The competency and the indicators that participant wishes to focus on for the development, again related to the goals of the department and the organization. The tasks or activities the individual will do in order to, in order for development of this competency or behaviors indicators. What is the timeline that you want to keep for that? Impact and the outcome that they will have, if they achieve this, what will the end result be? I mean, will I have something tangible in terms to gain in my employment? Any constraints or challenges that the candidate sees or foresees, or any support that they need in order to ensure that these tasks are carried out well. Obviously, no, some of the support may be, you may require some paid time off to achieve some of the goals. You may require some internal organizational postings or internal organizational assignments and all that. So that has to be specified. The review mechanism to ensure the development plan has been achieved. Now that has to be formalized with the concerned, unit manager or the line manager. Now, here is a suggested IDP format. Not necessary that everybody should follow it. Is only indicative. So, if you want to use some other format, you are most welcome to design something else. So, you have the name of the employee, contact numbers, fax or email. Who is the current supervisor? What is the title of the supervisor? His phone number, email, and all that. Goals for successful performance in the current position, and short-term goals and long-term goals, developmental objectives. What do you need to do this year to work towards your goals? So, development activities, you have to mention that, proposed dates, estimated cost, and date completed. So, estimated cost is something that if the company has to take charge of that, they will know how to incorporate in their budgets. So if you have any special notes, you can mention that. Then you sign it, and your supervisor looks at it. He reviews it, and then he okays it. It is signed. Once it is signed, it becomes a document which is to be implemented. HR department will keep track of the progress. They will review the progress, and wherever the support is required, HR department will also provide the support to the employee and guide the organization's, the supervisor. So the employee and supervisor should work together to complete the goals for successful performance. The developmental objectives have to be clearly articulated. This is the objective, and this is the goal that I'm going to achieve. So the alignment is there. I think it makes everybody feel good about it. Determine what method of training is required and what time frame and how much is the cost for that. This methods of training. There are different methods of training for the employee. One is on-the-job training. This includes coaching by a skilled individual or details into positions that will give the employee the skill and knowledge required. Now, temporary assignments to another location or position to gain specific knowledge or the experience, or learning some courses. Nowadays, I think most of the employees in the organizations are encouraged to, take up new courses, particularly in the area of AI, ML, and the fintech, where those areas, companies are encouraging their employees to take additional courses, and after you successfully complete the course, submit the proof of successful completion certificate. The organizations are willing to reimburse the cost incurred by the employee. So that is a sort of a motivation for the employees that if I do this additional skill or knowledge acquisition activity, the company is going to take care of my expenses. So then they discuss the development plan with the employee and review the modify appropriately before you freeze the plan. Now, what is the IDP preparation? Performance goal. What is the performance goal for the employee? Development goal. Do what and why. Those are the things that you need to look at. Then, what are the activities that you are going to look at? The special assignment, training, observation, coaching. What exactly you want to do? Resources needed. Manager coaching other people, tools, funding. If you require some additional tools, if the organizer has to invest in buying those tools, I think you'll have to specify that. And how will you measure the progress or implementation of the development goals? I think you'll have to articulate and put them in this document. What exactly you mean by what are the milestones that you want to achieve, and when will it be completed? That has to be clear. And key learning and application. What insight did you gain, and how did you apply it on your job? So these are the things that you need to write. And this, if it is possible, uh, complete it in a stipulated time, possible 2 or 3 months max. Then you are getting yourself ready for the next move by the organization in terms of additional responsibility, right? So this is the continuation to the previous slide. So date plan reviewed by the manager, notes of the conversation, next meeting with the manager. So these are all documented so that there is an evidence of what you are doing and how you are doing, what is the progress made, what are the gaps still not achieved. So the HR can make an appropriate move in terms of your career positioning. So unplanned development, note any unplanned opportunities you use to build skills, knowledge to address a competency or performance. So what are those unplanned, events that you are doing so that, you are able to articulate that document what are your achievements in that. Okay, now this is important. This is important from many perspectives. One is if you are leading any development work for your employees in your organization, or as an L&D manager, you are doing something. I think it's important. What are the development? How do people develop in the organization? What is the role played by the organization, and what is the role played by the individual? And how do you actually navigate your trainees through these activities? Um, so these are the methods through which learning and development can be provided to the individual, and these methods can be a part of your IDP. The first one is the management development programs. I'm sure all of you understand what is management development programs. These are programs designed by either internally the L&D department, or conducted externally by a third party, where you depute your employees to attend those programs and complete them successfully. We'll go into the details. Then competency based workshops, job rotation, job enrichment, project based learning, self-paced e-learning programs, and open university programs. So this is a portfolio of training development techniques. Now, what will you opt for depends on two, three important factors. One, the resources the company is willing to invest in the individual. Number two, the individual himself, his motivation and his learning style. Number three, what are the timelines and in which department you are working? All these are the variables. So depending on these variables, you'll have to figure out which is the best method for getting trained, and each method has its own effectiveness in terms of the learning. So you'll have to see what suits the best to a particular individual participant. Now, management development programs consist of multiple topics or subjects spread across period of 6 months to 2 years. In fact, if you look at the most of the university-based management development programs, the government of India prescribes a 1 year duration, because the employees cannot come for classes like the regular students on a day-to-day basis. Usually, the MDPs are scheduled over the weekends, and these programs, they are run on the basis of number of hours of instruction. It may run from 3 months to 12 months, whichever the is more appropriate for that particular inputs. includes multiple case studies. Obviously, at the adult learning, you cannot use too much of lecturing or textbook stuff. You'll have to depend more on experiential learning and inclusive learning. So best is to integrate many case studies, assignments, and have course curriculum. But then delivery is through facilitation, not through instruction. Uh, the MDP could be the programs that are run by established institutions, business schools, etc. It can be customized for the set of participants in the organization. So, the if it is done by the universities or the business schools, and if you have sufficient number of participants, the organization can invite the business school or the university to conduct the program in house. How does it happen? No, when you do the development center for several employees, and so the development center identifies some areas of improvement for each employee, then the L&D department and the HR department has to look at the developmental needs of each of these employees and cluster them with people having the similar developmental needs. If there are some 15 people for whom the communication needs skills are to be improved, that is one cluster. There may be 20 employees for whom critical thinking skills are to be improved. That's another cluster. So, based on the DC reports and the recommendations made by the DC, the HR department has to work out the clusters of people requiring similar kind of development plan. So based on that, you can either, if there are sufficient number of people who require training, maybe the organization can ask for a customized training program in the company for those people who have got similar training requirements. If your numbers are very small, then you have to look for some external vendor who's offering programs outside open MDPs, and then depute your managers or employees for those open MDPs. So that is how it happens. MDPs are a regular feature in most of the industries where the employees are sent out for training program either at an independent neutral venue, or if it is a substantive program requiring significant number of employees in the organization, you can ask for an on-site training program for those people. Then competency-based workshops, basically designed specially for the enhancement of certain competencies, focus on particular competency for one or two specific behavioral indicators at a time, provides necessary skills and techniques for the participants in order to start building those competencies, must be same competencies for the DC have been uh, conducted. So this obviously the training programs are being conceived based on the DC's outcome. So whatever you did there, maybe the similar type or same or similar type of activities may be conceived here and implemented. But the objective here is not just assessment as it is done in the DC. It is more of involvement, reflection, learning, and then behavioral modification finally, and validating that it has happened is what is important in this. While doing the competency-based workshop, avoid using the existing development programs and convert it into a competency-based workshop. Because now we are talking about more in terms of competencies at the organization level, not the current the conventional training programs. If you have not, your organization has not yet shifted to the competency-based models of training, then it is suggested that you can change to the competency-based modeling as soon as possible. Job rotation, we all know, we have discussed it enough. It must be done in a systematic manner, the rotation so organized that the people are familiarized with each function, how it is helpful to them, help them in building the specific competencies. Uh, I think one of the most effective ways, which I personally feel, is job rotation. I am myself a beneficiary of job rotation in a certain company where I was put on job rotation for 1 full year. 1 full year, I was traveling across the country to different departments of the organization, and in each department I've spent about a month, and by the end of the 1 year, I think I had a very clear, eagle's view of the entire organization and what happens, who's there, who are the people driving that, how it gets done, how it is integrated. All these things have received extensive training. And in my experience, I found that job rotation is one of the best way to train your employees. Now, job enrichment and extension of the current work that is the individual is doing. This may include the addition of certain responsibilities to the role holder, or inclusion of a new project, or being made part of the new project that helps the team them in building those specific competencies. So usually enrichment is done by delegating some of the responsibilities to the supervisor and giving the independence for the employee to operate in that space without any changing the designation or the pay level. Generally, it is just a sort of a pilot or a testing time when the company would like to observe how you discharge your duties at a higher level. And once you are able to demonstrate you can do well and you are able to manage the enriched activities or tasks in your job flawlessly, then the company will be willing to consider you to elevate for a higher level of responsibility. Project based learning, action oriented programs that help in competency development. PBL is a very, very important component in any organizational training program. They must be designed with utmost care to ensure that it helps developing these specific competencies. So, and PBL can be in many ways. See, one thing that we all must remember is it requires a lot of resources and commitment of time, and therefore PBL design should be done in such a way that it helps you to achieve those competencies which you are lacking now. And eventually at the end of that, somebody has to vouch that you have attained those competencies. People should have frequent review mechanism, a project guide to ensure a noticeable difference in the participants abilities, competencies, and the capabilities. While assigning the projects to the participants, it must be ensured that the participants are eager to learn from their projects, and the facilitator can optimize the learning by directing and bringing out the specific behaviors the participant is working on. So it's a high value, high learning technique, but then the content has to be properly curated, the tasks have to be properly identified, and the concerned individuals who are part of this project based learning should be supervised and mentored so that the learning goals can be achieved. Then mentoring, I think all of you know, so I don't think I need to elaborate. Therefore, I will skip that part. Self-paced e-learning is what is now most popular. Organizations are encouraging their employees to go and register for the e-learning courses. The advantage is you're not going to learn during the company's time, so the company doesn't lose your productive time. Number one. Number two, it is self-paced. You can choose what is the best period of learning, early morning, late night, whatever the time that you want, or the weekends, whenever the time suits you. So the primary advantage of using this, it is self-paced. You can learn at your own pace. Nobody is pressurizing you and saying that this particular term is restricted to so many weeks and you have to complete. So it is all left to the individual concerned and his or her aspiration and the amount of time that they can spend. Then the organizations where there are substantial number of people who are doing this, the organization might have an LMS of its own where they will track the progress with the individual and how much time is spent by the individual, what marks are they getting, how frequently the evaluations are happening, what kind of leave requirements the employee will have because of the e-learning process that is going through. All that can be managed. Then Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, and edX, all these platforms are there for the individuals to learn. So another benefit of this method is that the competency based e-learning methods modules can be created by the organization. Assessment and evaluation can be done for the program. Of course, open university programs or business school programs are there where you can depute your employees to register for a program once the programs are announced. XLRI, IIMs, NITI, Bombay, that is IIM Bombay. So there are so many organizations, including some of the private universities, private business schools that are offering programs. which are very, very valuable. And you will have to shortlist the programs which are uh, economical and effective both, and depute your organization staff for attending such programs. So, what are the applications of DC in talent management framework, which is the goal of this entire course? Identifying the participant for the next stage of growth, creating an individual development plan, synthesizing or summarizing the development plans of all the participants, identifying or creating a common development program that ensures that each individual development needs are met in this customized program. As a part of the development process, on the job assignments, cross functional teams, and other projects can be given to the participants to ensure they can get opportunity to develop these competencies. So it requires, working back from the from the HR department to the concerned, line function, and then coordinating with the training establishment and deputing the employees. It requires tremendous amount of coordination. Mentoring and coaching process can be provided as a part of the development plan of the participants. Now, this is a matrix. I think if you can understand this, it's a useful decision making tool. On the x-axis, you have the performance. On the y-axis, you have potential. The on both these axes, you have classified the axis in a manner of speaking. You are dividing this whole space into 9 boxes, and the performance is classified as weak, adequate, and strong. And potential is also classified as weak, adequate, and strong. Now, if you see this, obviously, this is the best and most sought after cell, where the performance is exceptional, and the potential is also excellent. So, if you have somebody who has got this, who can be placed in this particular cell, that person is a sort of irreplaceable. You cannot just find a substitute for that person. On the other hand, if you look at the first cell here, which is weak performance and no great potential, I think such people need not be there in the organization. You can get rid of them. Now, the remaining, if you look at the position two, acceptable, if the performance is adequate but potential is not great. So, which means, such people can continue, but they should not have any aspirations for themselves in terms of promotions and things like that. You can, continue them in the organization, but they are not promising to be great leaders in the future. That is number two. Number three is exceptional performance, little or no improvement in potential. Again, no, number two and three, you can continue them in the organization, but they are not going to fit your bill for any higher responsibilities and things like that. Okay, then then you look at the adequate potential is there, but performance is not great. So then, again, they are not really required by the organization. So if you really see this entire grid, I think ink color is to be changed. Ink color. I would look at these four as something which, these five as something that which is seriously we are interested in. The potential is great, performance is not great, then probably, because the potential is there, you can coach them and make them ready for your organizational needs. Or their adequate performance and adequate potential, they are somewhere here, then probably you can train them for the future and then move them up either on the potential side or on the performance side. Then current star is that extremely good performers, potential is reasonably good, exceptional performance, improving moderately. So they can also be worked upon to to be pushed to cell 9. So similarly, future star performance is good, more moderate, but great potential. Perhaps they also can be. People who are here can probably be organized, can work towards moving them here, and similarly, people can be moved here. And people who are coachable by coaching, you can move them here. And yeah, Deepthi ma'am.
Sir, regarding this box, I mean, we also use this box, but
Okay.
I asked this question here also.
Uh-huh.
This is a genuine question that I have. How do you map the potential? Performance is easy. You can
Okay.
actually map the, performance. But when we talk about potential,
Mm.
what are the ways to map the potential?
Okay, wonderful question. Very interesting question. Does anyone have any answer response to that before I respond to ma'am? Anyone? It's a good question. I'm happy that you've raised. How do you spot potential actually in the organizations? Any thoughts?
Sir, with their results, attitude, and willingness to grow. These are the attitude. Basically, attitude is the one parameter with that we can assess the potential.
Okay, so attitude is one. Okay, Mr. Leo, you want to contribute?
Uh, San, the one of the things that we have tried is we have taken certain key elements of the competencies which are required for the next role, and we have when a particular supervisor has rated his particular staff in the annual assessment, when he has rated his staff as exceeding expectations, outstanding, or anything that is way, way, way above the norm, if there is anybody like that, first of all, that person is identified from within the system. The system throws up these people, and first, and then the second thing is that a series of tests which we have tried. I'm not sure whether they are entirely accurate or not. Let me clarify that first, because we have tried something as a trial and error method. So some of the, like for example, a person who has to move in from a current team leader role into, let us say, a group leader role, we are talking about at that level. We're not talking about it at lower levels. So if they're moving from a team leader role to a group leader role, what we have done is we have actually worked out in some of the tests with case studies, and we try and see how they answer on those. Then three or four or five people will sit in on that presentation, if I may call it that, and they also put their thoughts down. So I'm not very sure whether it's currently scientific what we are doing, but then on a scale of 1 to 5, everybody gives their view on that particular candidate. Again, as I said, it may not necessarily be scientific, but it's like a kind of a taking feedback from above and then taking a feedback from below. And I can't call it 360-degree feedback, but that's how we try from our side. That's what we have done in the last 2 years over here.
Wonderful, wonderful, awesome. Yes, ma'am. Does it answer you to some extent? I think both of them have given you some.
Ma'am, sir, many questions comes to this. So when we talk about potential performance metrics, it's about my potential, which is
Mhm.
also related to my job, but to an extent, my potential. Maybe I have a, so I'll give you a very good example. I'm working with Daimler as a senior manager. I come with 22 years of experience, but I'm not MBA in HR. I
Okay,
am a PhD in marketing management. I'm MBA in
okay,
marketing. Okay.
okay.
Now, I don't have that degree, and I was working as a manager, and I was appointed as a senior manager. Okay.
Hmm.
Whereas there was another colleague who was appointed at the same time. She was working in KPMG as assistant manager,
Hmm.
and she was given the role senior to senior manager, that is associate divisional manager.
Okay,
Now, what I bring to the table and what she brings to the table are two different things.
right.
But how is that potential being mapped? Because performance is a clear outcome of my performance. But when I talk about potential, I might have a potential to become the section head also. I might have a
Okay.
potential to become the CHRO also, or I might have a potential where I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
In our company, they sit on a IVC and they decide. So, is the resume that decides about the potential? Is it the people who have interviewed and seen, okay, so and so brand you have worked for, that's why it's coming to that potential? But those are not the right way. Now, if when what Leo spoke about, taking a 360-degree feedback and all, that is on the performance.
Okay. 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 Understood.
That is
Okay.
on the performance. Where is potential coming into the picture? How do you map what is my potential?
Okay. Great. Good conversation. Now, let me put it a couple of perspectives I'll bring to the conversation.
Son, sorry,
Number
son,
one,
can I
yeah,
just
yeah,
come by?
yeah. Please.
Yes, and just to once again reiterate, the 360-degree feedback is only with regard to the people who are identified. The first step is actually assessing them through a series of case studies, which we present with future situations. So that was one of the primary things. Again, as I said, we don't know whether it is scientific or not, but this is something which we have found to have some value. The 360-degree feedback comes later.
So, Leo, that is scientific still until, in my organization, those section heads sit and decide the future of the people. If I have to compare that, this is much more scientific, case study. But again, the question is, what is the exact definition of potential and how do you map and bring them? That is the main thing that I was actually persisting to.
Okay, okay, great. I think that's a very interesting conversation. Now, from the perspective of the development center, assessments, potential basically here you are looking at, since we are looking at the candidates who have been through the development center, you are looking at the next level of their, role, next role, and that requires certain competencies, and you are sending them at the current level of competencies, and you are assessing whether there's a gap, the gap is manageable or not, and what is the promise they are having, in terms of filling the gap and rising to the occasion. So to that extent, if you are putting the employee through a development center, making assessment, and then putting them, mapping them into this grid, it is a bit definitely more scientific. But I think what Leo said is also very important there. This is by taking the, I wouldn't say it's a 360 feedback, what he said earlier also. It is manager's own rating of somebody who is considered. There are three people who are, let us say, ready for consideration for the next level. Now, what are the three people who are having the more potential? Now, one of the things is judgment by the managers, the assessment by the managers. Now, you ask individual managers to rate the person on certain parameters. Obviously, they have to be related to the competences required for the next level. And each one of them give the rating on their own, in their own way. And you take an average of it. It gives you a reasonably good estimate of the potential of the candidate. Whether it is backed by science, I will not say, but definitely it is backed by the human judgment. And definitely, when you are asking for the judgment by the colleagues or by their superiors, definite or even the peers, you will get a reasonable, feedback on what is the possible, what is the potential level of the individual. Performance, anyway, is a part of the performance appraisal. It is documented, it is measured, it is there in your invoices, it is there in your other documents in the organization. So, performance, there is no dispute about its measurability. So, the measurability of the potential is what you are questioning. One is sending them, the potential candidates to the development center, and then mapping their potential competency levels to the potential here, or taking the view of uh, the managers or the colleagues or peers who are interacting with them on a day-to-day basis, and seeking their view to ascertain among the available candidates who is the best fit for the next role. These are the two ways you can do it. I will give you two examples. I know of a particular person, a great manager, speaker, all rolled into one, a graduate from IIT, who was working with a multinational company in a production department. He joined the company maybe at the age of 22 or 23, and within a span of 10 years, he has gone to he has been given multiple promotions and he has gone to fairly senior level. All that happened because the organization looked at his performance, and some people have assessed him to be the candidate for with good potential. And let me tell you, this organization, which I'm talking, I don't want to name the organization. They have a regular practice of all the coveted managers being brought into a training program every year and bring the best of the trainers from the country, invest a lot of money in their training, and they make an assessment without telling the employee. They make an assessment and create a record to what the highest level the employee can rise. Year after year this document is created, and people with higher potential, they move up the ladder because the year after year their estimated level of achievement is increased, and some people remain the same. In this particular case, after reaching a particular level at the age of 35 till the age of 60, he remained in the same level. For 25 years, he was not promoted because after getting into that level, the assessment system in the organization, nobody has rated him to have potential above that. And before that, up to that level, within a span of maybe I think 10 to 12 years, he had rapid progression in their career. So it worked for them. And this gentleman continued there for 25 years in the same role till his retirement. Now, whether it is scientific, to my mind, I think human judgment is pretty important, and that worked in this particular case. And he had no questions. He had no, frustration. He realized that he has reached a point of his highest potential or highest achievement in the organization. Right now, number two, uh, you also see, particularly the civil service. Civil servants, they are all pretty young when they become collector. Most of them are below 30 years of age, a good number of them. And yet they command a lot of people who are much senior in their age and experience. Now, how do you achieve that kind of position? I think that is because their entire selection process leads to the high potentials. They're all the people with high potential in terms of knowledge, competency, skills, and ability to judge, take decisions, and therefore they are put at the top level. I think with these two examples, I'm sure you will have some inkling. And of course, the third and most important, I would also give you another example. In the Oberoi group, the old man, what is his name? The man who passed away, the founder of the Oberoi group, it's a legendary story that any employee who comes into the organization, particularly at the managerial level, has to be seen by him before he is given an offer. After all the process are over, the last step is that the I think his name is Bridgemohan Oberoi or something like that, PM Oberoi, and he has to see them, see the potential recruit or employee. So it is said that he sees them in a certain room where the room is fairly big and with a long table. And at one end of the table, he would sit. The other end of the table is the entry gate or the entry door. And once the candidate knocks the door and he says, "Come in," he will observe the candidate for 30 seconds before he comes and stands at the other end of the table and asks for a seat. And it is generally believed that he would have made the decision in that 30 seconds about to recruit or not to recruit. How do you make this judgment? I think that is something that some people have got that uncanny ability of doing it. And a lot of time for the senior positions, for example, succession management. One of the key principles of succession management, suppose you want to identify a next level or next CEO of the organization. So the levels of discussion go into multiple people at the board level, and several board of directors will rate the potential candidates, and finally a summation or the collective wisdom of all these people is considered for identifying the potential CEO for the future. So I think these are some of the examples I can give you, but I don't know whether they are still convincing or not. Uh, Hopefully, it will help you as input. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, I think we only have to bring something scientific to map the potential. One is competency for sure, because then your potential, you know how potential you are for that particular growth or role or something like that. That could be one. But if there's no competency framework, then I feel using this module is a little tricky.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, we need to promote the development center concept more and more in our country. We have to get into more of, scientific way of doing things. Yes, Preeti ma'am.
Yes, sir, just out of the context, as Deepthi was saying regarding potential and performance. So one recent example which I can see is the selection of test captain of Indian team.
Okay.
What they saw in Gill and how he was made the captain. So there is some scientific evidence also regarding his potential performance. So that is one example which I could think of.
Definitely. I see. I don't know whether some of these things can be called scientific or not. When Prime Minister Narasimha Rao selected Mr. Manmohan Singh as the finance minister, who was not a very extrovert or public figure, or guy who is with political instincts, but he made an outstanding finance minister. So what process Mr. PV Narasimha followed, we do not know. But his judgment that he makes a good fit as a finance minister is something outstanding. I think we all have seen. That is why I say, in the assessment of potential, the judgment of the concerned managers is as important as the scientific process that we are talking about. Sometimes the sixth instinct tells you who will be the best fit rather than the entire scientific process. So we need to have, in identifying the potential of the candidates, my take is, you need to have both the scientific approach that we are talking about, but also the sixth instinct of some of the people who are best at that, and a qualitative approach plus a quantitative approach converging together and pointing to somebody is a much better approach to identify the potential than purely depending on the science. I know it may be an unsettling question. We may have not completely answered it, but some of these things we will probably learn and as become more and more wiser with our experience. Okay. All right. I think we'll move forward. Yeah. So, but nevertheless, this talent management nine box matrix is a good tool for making decisions. And if you use some tool like this, if something goes wrong, maybe out of 10 decisions that you make, one or two decisions may go wrong. Still, then you will know what went wrong, in which assessment you went wrong, right? But needless to say, it is not right to reward high performers with less potential to give higher levels of positions in the organization, because then the organization suffers, because a good performer, once he gets into that, he wants to get into the mode of protecting his position, and in the mode of protecting his or her position, he or she makes more of politics in the organization that will spoil the environment in the organization. So it is important to identify the right good potentials for higher levels of responsibilities, although their performance at the current level may not be great, but they'll make good leaders when they get promoted. Okay, with that, I think we have completed the syllabus. That's a great discussion that we all had, and thank you, Deepthi ma'am, for bringing those points to table. I know what you have said about colleague from KPMG and yourself and all, I think these kinds of situations we all face. Sometimes, you know, some decisions are irrational in organizations. Not all decisions in the organizations are rational. We'll have to know various other contextual factors why those irrational decisions are taken. Right. So with that, we have completed the course as such. So what we have done in this course, I'll just give an overview of it. We have started with the introduction of the competency literature and how it has developed and evolved. Uh, and what is its relevance for today, and how is it going to benefit the L&D departments in the organization, yeah, in specific and as a whole for the organization. Then we have understood, we got deep dived into the technical competency framework, understood what it means, what are the how do you actually look at the technical competencies. Then more important for people like you who are working in the organizations and leading the training and development activities, the leadership competency framework, because today there is a great need for leaders in all the spheres of life, whether it is sports, temples, NGOs, corporates, educational institutions, name it, and you have a huge gap in the leadership roles, and therefore leadership competency framework is very important. We have gone into details of that, and we have discussed various models available. Then the next three modules we have discussed more on how actually you develop the center from the operational point of view. How do you execute the development center, and what are the processes involved? How do you who are the people involved? How do you design this entire development center execution? Then we have gone into the the how do you prepare the report, what goes into the report, who has to do what part, how do you integrate the report, then who are the stakeholders, how is it shared with various people, and what kind of a feedback is given to the participant, how is the feedback leveraged by the organization, and that culminated into preparation of the individual development plan, which is owned by the individual but also driven by the corporate for the better career opportunities for the individual, and also for better talent management at the organization level. So we have concluded that the development process, the center process is very important for a very well defined, well analyzed, scientifically created way of identifying the potential of the people for the future roles. And if it is coupled with a good performance, then you are contributing, or you are adding value as an L&D manager. You're adding value to the organization by curating the required talent for the organization. And today organizations need more of talent managers than anything else. Money, technology, markets, everything is given today. I think the amount of resources available there are enormous. I think the biggest challenge for the future corporate success, or the competence, the competitive advantage of the organizations is having the right pool of talent, and the kind of talent that you are looking for a company. The development center can definitely help you in cultivating and nurturing those kinds of people. So that is where we will end this course. Uh, I thank you all for being so patient and so contributing so much for enriching the discussion. Yeah, we will have now open house. Whatever the questions that you have, you can discuss. And once the discussion is all done, we will wind up the session. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Preeti, ma'am.
And Dr. Rao, can you come to slide number 14?
Okay.
Some clarification required. The last two lines, can you elaborate on that maybe with some example? Avoid using existing development program, that one.
Yeah, okay. It's very simple. I think most of us are used to implementing some kind of workshops in our organizations. And quite likely that these workshops have been there for, they have been designed and implemented for some time in those contexts, or in those organizations, or in those training centers. But now, when you're talking
Uh-huh.
about competency moment, try to relate your workshops to map your workshops to the competencies that you are trying to build on, right? So just don't give the training programs in the way traditionally you have been doing. Relate what competencies this workshop will enhance in the participants, and how is it going to benefit the individual and the organization. That
Okay,
is
like not replicating the earlier, like existing programs, not replicating those. Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Just
Thank you,
don't
sir.
carry on as it is. I think if you are able to identify the competencies which the workshops are able to build, I think that will make that more relevant, appropriate, and relatable to the participants and the organizations. Yeah,
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
right. Okay. Any other anything that you want to ask from any part of this course or anything else related to this course, please feel free to raise, because we will not be meeting again before your exam. So this is the right time to ask any questions related.
I have one question.
Yeah, please.
When we talk about competency-based workshop, continuation with Preeti's question. Let's say competency is communication. And I already have an existing program that is going on communication to drive. Why is that? I mean, when I'm designing a competency-based workshop, do I have to consider what all should I consider for the material or maybe the needs that needs to go in that communication basis competency, and how is it that different to that communicate to thrive?
Okay. No. Again, you are talking from the context of this particular two lines that we discussed just now. See, I'm sure communication training must have been going on in the organization for the last 20, 25, 30 years. It is not anything new.
Yeah.
Uh, I also find when we do the MDPs in our organization, sometimes, mid-level managers are sent for communication training. I'm somewhat surprised to see that middle level managers are sent for communication training at the age of maybe 45, 50. And by that time, they've already put in uh, maybe 20 years of experience. Now,
Mm.
please tell me, why would an organization depute somebody for 3 days training on communication uh, at that age and at that level of management? And
But if
invest
if I'm
in
going for a competency route, and let's say my organization doesn't have that competency thing, and we have established, and we found out there is a gap. So there are two ways when I develop the competency framework. One, existing people I have to develop and bring to the desired competency level, proficiency level. And one is whenever there's a new hire, I will get them at that proficiency level through some scientific tools. So
correct.
if I'm going to the competency route and I see that there is a scope, I have to improve that. So company has to invest for them to go for this communication skills and all. Again, differs. I know that if there's a proficiency gap of -1, so it can be also, on job training, coachable and all. If -2, then training. So that again differs. But I just had my question was very simple. When I design a competency based training, like in case of normal calendar or normal training, I actually collate the needs from the business stakeholders. I understand their needs. I analyze the data and I know what is the gap to their problem statements. In competency based training, how do I understand the problem statements?
Okay, I think I'll give you this instance where I was also partly involved in the delivery of the program. This is a training program where we had people with 50 years of experience and also people with 2 years of experience. That means you have got pretty young guys and pretty old guys. Now, for them, the competency required one of the competencies to be enriched is communication, and they're all in the uh, delivery end. I think it's a process based industry, and the biggest problem they have is the coordination among the regional office, delivery unit, whatever is locally there, and their production units. So
Okay.
the problem statement here is that communication in terms of coordination is pretty weak. Communication not as a language. So you are talking about multiple stakeholders in this within the organization. They're not even talking about the customers within the organization. There are multiple units, multiple offices. The communication is a problem, and that leads to some chaotic conditions. So the mandate given to us is very clear. So you have to give the communication training to the extent of that helps them to better coordinate among the offices. So if I give a
Okay.
general communication training, that doesn't help. So my activities, my inputs, and whatever the material that I want to share with them in terms of case studies have to be based on this kind of specific situations. So we had to do some curation of the cases for them only applicable to this kind of, some 20 or 25 trainees, give examples, bring some anecdotes that are relatable to them, and involve them in bringing out the problems that they are facing in their work situation. Why a particular communication has led to some complication or a chaos there, and how did they come out, and is there a better way of doing it? So it's all centered about communication to a context there. So the general communication training will not work. So that is
And
what.
how do I get the context that what all should be involved in this? To
Okay, that
proficiency
requires.
level or something else as well?
Okay, in this particular instance, their L&D manager interacted with us, and he has expresses what are the, I mean, we have tried to probe exactly why this particular training is required, and how do the 50-year-old fellow sitting with a 25-year-old fellow, and discussing together how the dynamics will work, what will be the kind of atmosphere that we will have in the training room. How do we ensure that the experienced guys do not feel they are looked down upon by the younger lot? So these dynamics within the class workshop have been figured out. The training requirements have been pinpointed by the L&D manager because of their own experience and why they want to fix this problem. And we understood this is the kind of a competency gap that they have, particularly communication in a context of the coordination with multiple offices in a delivery process. And the content has been curated for that. And the
Got
training
that.
methods have also been curated for that particular purpose.
So
So
for competency based workshop also a proper TNI TNA should be done even after the proficiency levels are defined to
yes.
understand a little more in detail so that it nails the.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then only you will be able to meet the customer's expectation.
Got that. Okay.
And your customer is not the train. Your customer is the L&D manager, the HR manager who is actually settling your bills. So that fellow has sent them for a specific need, and you need to understand and address that so that he is able to deliver to his organization.
Understood.
Yeah, great. That's a nice question. Yeah. Yes. Anybody else? Any other question? Are you all okay? Overall, are these inputs good enough for you? You are all satisfied?
No questions, son.
Okay, no, but what is your overall level of, are you feeling confident, comfortable for facing the exam? Do you think these inputs are good enough for you? Or you still feel that there is something that you are missing?
I
About
think
the
it's good
exam, I
enough.
don't know, son.
Sorry?
Please continue, doctor.
No, I'm saying it's good enough until we know what are the questions. So it's good enough. Right, Leo?
I
Yes,
don't
sir.
know.
With regard to the examination, I don't know, but I certainly feel that the content covered has given me a lot of clarity because a lot of things we were doing by trial and error. So some points immediately became clear to me for action plans that need to be worked out on certain areas of my functionality. Maybe within the next 2 or 3 weeks, I have to correct some things, and that has all happened because of the inputs which we have received during this. I know I have not been attending constantly, but throughout, whenever it was possible, I used to go through the rest of the week. So the inputs were very, very valuable in this entire session. Thank you very much, San.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, as far as exams are concerned, don't worry, ma'am. I'm a diploma holder. I have passed this diploma way back some 15 years ago. After putting in some plus 20 plus years of experience. So nothing to really worry. You are all uh, successful trainers or managers in organizations. So nothing to worry about the exam. I think, to my mind, what is important is this is a purely applied course, and this is for using it in our day-to-day corporate life. So, what Mr. Leo said is absolutely it makes sense, because some of these things we may be doing it, but is it the right way? I mean, do how and know how. These two are two different things. Maybe, as he said rightly, some refinement would have happened in your understanding, and that improves your performance in the organization. I'll just give you an example. A lot of people conduct group discussions in the organizations, in training and development department, in the colleges for the students and all. Let me tell you, a good number of them really do not know. They know the know-how of group discussions. The do-how of group discussions, a good number of them do not know. Similarly, role plays. So a lot of things we assume that we know and we keep doing it. But when you go through a program like this, you will have much more clear understanding of how. Yes, sorry. Hello. Yeah, are you saying something, ma'am? Okay. So these kinds of courses and programs will give you clarity for your refined professional practice. These are all professional courses and used by professionals in the organizations. And the more and more you are refined and seasoned, you are able to do better in your either your own practice as an individual or in your organization as an employee of the organization. Yeah. Any feedback from Mr. Naren? Any questions, feedback?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sriram? Mr. Sriram? Mr. Sandeep?
No, sir. It is good. Today, more things are clear about post 9 books theory, and being a trainer, sir, this type of learning is very impactful in our career growth, sir, and as well as trainings. Now next level. So now AI generation. So we need to be match our criteria accordingly, and for post graduation diploma will help out, sir. So all give training sessions. So it will be help us in during our examination part, sir. Thanks, lot, sir.
Excellent. Excellent. Jyoti ma'am?
Yes, sir. Very useful insights. I don't know about the exams perspective, but yeah, very useful insights. And also, it gives a kind of authentication. Like, yeah, मैंने भी ऐसा experience किया है, and you have also experienced, and certain other person also experienced the same. So that authentication it gives, like, yeah, we are on a right track.
Good, good, good. That's a very good way of putting things across. Yeah. Preeti ma'am?
All good, sir. Lot of clarifications, got to know some new perspectives as well. So all good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I think Ramesh is having unstable connection. He's joining in and going out. So there is some internet issue. And Mr. Sriram, I think, is not able to either listen to me or whatever, or he may not be there. Okay. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, you can still continue to ask me. What are the slides which are not yet shared? I will send them to the head office, and then they will share. Except the last two, all the other slides I have shared. You will have all the slides with you. Yeah.
Dr. Rao, if it's possible, can you share your number, contact number?
My contact number is simple, ma'am. 9990 810. You can make a note.
990.
I'll put it in the chat. So that is my number, 9908102340. All right. So if there is nothing else, I thank you all once again, and wish you all the best for your diploma program, and wish you all great time ahead in your professional and personal life. And hopefully we will meet somewhere sometime in ISTD or some other meeting.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you
Right.
so much, sir.
Right. So then
Wish you
I'll,
the
Thank you, sir.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Sam.
I'll close the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Being
you.
a
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you,
Many
sir.
Bye.
thanks, Sam.
Thank you all. Thank you all.